you. Good morning. It is such an honor to be asked to come back to such an important conference, and it was career-changing for me to attend Lessons for Success. So to be back here as a successful person is like so wonderful. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be in this spot. Okay, so my funding trajectory has been a little bit more protracted than maybe other people's have been, but I'm going to explain to you a little bit why that is. I was doing a lot of multitasking in the past 5 years. So I started submitting grants, NIH grants, when I was a doctoral student, and I just received my first NIH grant this past spring. So it's been a long and winding road. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my path and what I've been doing. So when I was a doctoral student, I submitted an IES grant looking at bilingual literacy, an F-31 and a revised F-31. So none of those things were funded. So moving on. When I was a postdoctoral fellow, actually when I was still a doc student, when I was about to start my postdoc, I submitted an F-32 award, which was scored, and then I revised it, and it was not discussed. So I don't know how that works, but that's what happened to me. And then I finally hit something. So in my first assistant professor position, I applied for an internal grant, and I got that. So that was good. And kind of looking back, I've had people give advice saying apply for the small grants first and then build up to the large grants, and I did that a little bit backwards. So I applied for some big ones without some small ones, but I ended up getting a small internal grant, which allowed me to transcribe and analyze some data to help me apply for some bigger grants. I also applied for an NSF grant, and an NIH revised R15, or I submitted an R15, then revised it. Neither of those got funded. So I kept on keeping on, and I had a baby. So that's part of the reason why things slowed down a little bit. When I started my current assistant professor position, I had a 6-week-old. And I actually submitted an NSF grant 2 weeks after she was born, one-handed. I had a baby in one hand, and I was doing the budget for the NSF grant in the other hand. I was in New York, but I was applying through the Arizona-sponsored projects because I hadn't moved yet. And sometimes I wish NSF and NIH could see what's on the other side of what the person's submitting, because it's often a little bit crazy. But anyway, it's a little bit crazy to submit an NSF grant with a 2-week-old, but I think we're all a little crazy. So, but anyway, when I started it, the first year I was at University of Arizona, I actually got another internal grant. So I got a nice little faculty seat grant, which helped me collect some data, which was really great. So I continued applying. I applied for an RO3. I applied for an ARC award, an ASHA ARC award. I revised that NSF grant and submitted that again. And I applied for a community foundation grant. I didn't get any of them. Oh, so why not add twins? While you're failing at grant writing, have twins. Great planning. Great job, Leah. There you go. So then I had 3 little kids. And then I came to Lessons for Success, and I actually got to do CPRE too, all in the same year. So 2013 was a really good year for me because I came for CPRE early in the spring, and then I came back for Lessons for Success like a month later. And literally that changed everything for me. It was like a light bulb went off. And I thought, that's what they want. I remember hearing Holly Storkel present on specific aims, and I said, that's the way you do it. I see now, okay? So having that input, and Lisa Goffman and Lisa Bador also helped me. Lisa Bador was my mentor for CPRE. Lisa Goffman was my mentor in Lessons for Success. So having their input was really fundamental to actually being successful. So I submitted the R21 an ASHA Foundation and an ASHA Multicultural Award. The R21 got scored on the first round. So that it wasn't fundable, but it was scored. And that was like my in. And I thought, okay, now I just need to drive it home. And with a lot of help, specifically from Elena Plant, some other people, it got funded on the revision. So long road, right? And lots of rejections. There were times right around here and here I started having some existential crises. NSF and NIH have both made me cry at different times. I think a lot of times I would get to the point after so much rejection that maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should be doing something else with my life. Why, what am I doing? What am I doing? But really just pressing through that and just pushing through that made all the difference for me to just keep going. So what are some lessons that I learned? Be humble. This was a tricky thing. It's a hard thing to do. But one of the things that I did that really made a difference for me was to ask for help from people in my department especially, lay it all on the line and show my work and say, tear it apart. And just take it and take the feedback and take the criticism and know that the only way you're going to move forward is if you listen to the people who know what they're talking about. So as a junior person, I called it remedial grant help because I did like a presentation of my specific aims and then everybody tore it apart. But it made all the difference because their suggestions were good and they were right on. And it was people from different areas of the field that could look at my work in different ways and give me some really specific things to do that really changed it, that really, really made it accessible to a lot of people. So be humble is one thing. Take constructive criticism well. It takes a village. I had feedback from so many people. Kate Button, Brad Story, Edwin Moss, Gail Dede, Elena Plant, Paige Beeson, Stephen Wilson. All of these people gave me feedback on my grant. People in other departments, other universities, Letter Estrepo at ASU, really getting a lot of eyes on it, but also knowing when to then be with your work by yourself and make your own decisions. And I think Brad Story gave me a really nice bit of advice, and he said, you've gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of people. Now, what do you think? What do you think? Do you want the theory in there or not? Do you want this in there or not? And he really kind of said, okay, now take it back. After you get a lot of input, take it back and say, okay, what do you want to do? When you're going through hell, just keep going. Honestly, just keep going. Even when you get rejection after rejection after rejection. And for me, I had these little kids at home, and I thought, oh, my God, what am I doing? This is crazy. Am I ever going to make it? Just keep going. Because if you keep trying and you keep at it, sooner or later, something's going to come through for you. You belong in this profession. Okay? And then this was really just my internal workings, but even when people reject you and reject you and reject you, sometimes it's just the way you're pitching your work. It's not that you don't do good work or that you don't belong doing this. It just means that you need to find another pathway to communicate what you do to people and do to people in a different way. Dig deep. This is something I learned. Nothing gets by the review panel. Nothing. You have to. Is this still on? Okay. You have to. When I did my revision for my R21, it's the deepest that I've ever dug in my theory and in my approach. I had to take it to a level that I've never taken my research to before because the review panel will catch it. They'll catch it if something's not detailed, if something's not defined, if you gloss over something, they're going to catch it. Nothing half-baked. There are only 2 chances when you put in an NIH grant to get it funded. Don't waste one of those chances with something that's half-baked. Make sure what you put in the first time is absolutely as perfect as it possibly can be. You don't want to put it in and say, oh, then I'll get the feedback and revise it. No. You only have 2 shots. And from my experience, you need to get a score on the first shot to get it in the second time. And I know there are people who've gone from non-discussed to funded, but I was never one of those people. So don't waste one of your chances. Make sure what you put in the first time is excellent. And trust yourself. Okay, like I said, it's good to get feedback from other people, but you're an expert in what you do. So trust yourself too. Instead of always wondering, what do they want? What do you think is the best way to approach this? What do you think is the best theoretical model? So trust your own perspective and your work as well. So that's it. If there's any questions? I don't know if we're taking questions or not, but I put a question slide in. Are there any questions? Okay, so one of the big pieces of the review that I hadn't thought of was adding someone in psychology, a psycholinguist, onto the grant. And that was really integral to it because she is Suzanne Curtin. She really helped me sit down and formalize how I was going to see my outcomes really happen. And I don't think I could have done it without her. I mean, she really helped me think things through. That's what I mean by digging deep. She helped me dig to a level I wouldn't have gone, I don't think, if I hadn't have collaborated with her. So, yes, that was a reviewer comment. Yes. Yeah, that was the reviewer comment. And so I did that, and it really ended up making a big difference in my theoretical model, big time. So it was a great suggestion. And, NICHD, I submitted to NIDCD, it got bumped to NICHD, and the panel on NICHD was much more theoretically oriented in some ways, so I needed that piece to meet the demands of that particular panel. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And one of my big struggles with NSF was that it was cross-reviewed by developmental and learning sciences and linguistics. And because I did my postdoc in theoretical linguistics, theoretical phonology with Jessica Barlow at UCSD, in Center for Research and Language, but also at San Diego State. It was very theoretical, and I knew it was going to get reviewed by the linguistics panel, but I don't know that with developmental and learning sciences that went over so well. So it was difficult to balance how theoretical linguistics would want me to be with the more applied piece in the developmental and learning sciences. So that was difficult. I think that cross-review, even though it gives you more of an opportunity to be funded, that was a challenge for me. Whereas NIH was so much more straightforward for me because the clinical piece is so easy to define for what I do that the significance for me and the innovation is kind of a piece of cake. It's more the approach I need to get hammered out. So for NIH, it was much easier with all the kind of more medical type of language, but NSF was really a challenge for me. It was a big challenge. So I don't have an answer of how I balanced it because I don't think I did because I never got funded. So what I did is I first sent the specific aims out to a subset of people. So I sent the specific aims out and tried to hammer my specific aims out as well as I could before I even dealt with anything else in the body of the grant. So I sent my specific aims out to 4 or 5 people, integrated that feedback, and really hammered those out. Then the body of the grant, then I sent to different people that I didn't send to, because I didn't want to tire out people with all of my stuff. So I would pick and choose different people for different pieces of it. But I really first tried to send the specific aims out to a bunch of people to try and get that hammered out first. Oh, you know what? I didn't think of that because most of the people I sent it out to are people in my department, so they would have to recuse themselves anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's something to consider, right? I didn't think that. I think I just kind of at one point just said, if I want this to happen, this is the process I need to go through. If I want to get funded, I need to go to Remedial Grant and present my work and have everybody tear it to shreds. And I'm just going to have to do that if I want to get funded. And so to me, getting funded was trumped everything. That was the goal. So anything that happened along the way, if it came down to people thinking that I was stupid or something, I was I don't really care as long as I get funded. I honestly didn't care. I was all I want to do is get funded. So that was my goal. It was the end goal, and anything else that had to happen was going to happen.
Yeah, you had mentioned that your experience at Lessons for Success and CPRE was kind of a game changer. And I was wondering if you could share with us a few of the nuggets that you had learned, or maybe some of the misconceptions that you were able to put to rest.
Yeah, really good question. So One of the things that I learned that came up right away is that one of my specific games depended on the other specific game, and that was a big no-no. Actually, that came up at CPRE. So at first, I think Margaret put mine up first, and I think I was the most junior person there. So talk about, like, feeling not so bright. You have your specific games up, and one depends on the other, and everyone right away is like, oh, number 2 depends on number 1. You can't do it that way. So that was kind of my start to hammer out, okay, how do I conceptualize specific games? What belongs in there? And like I said, Holly gave a presentation at Lessons for Success then like a month later, and that clicked in. And I think once I clearly delineated what my aims were, everything else fell into place. And I didn't have it organized in that way. You know, when I had gotten all my reviews back and all those grants that I didn't get, they always had problems with the approach. It was always the approach. And I was really having a hard time is what is it about my approach that people just aren't understanding? And what it was really linking each stage of my approach up with the specific aims. And once I had those aims hammered out, then it was easy. I was like, oh, yeah, this is this aim, and this is this aim, and this is this aim. But I had never conceptualized it like that before. So all of a sudden, I had an approach that then reflected what I was trying to do. And that really was what my problem was all that time. So that was the big one that stood out for me.